I would like to call to order our July 18th City of Longview City Council meeting. Thank you everyone that is here with us for the meeting tonight. Our prayer and pledge will be led by Longview PAWS board member Karen Haas and Brittany Mills, who is our outreach coordinator and the right person to call if you want to volunteer at the animal shelter. Please stand.
Thank you so much for having us. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you. We come to you with thanks for this beautiful, amazing day. We thank you for the cooler temperatures that I know all of us, including our furry friends, are enjoying greatly. We thank you for everyone in this room. We thank you for our mayor and our city council members. We thank you for our city employees and all the rest of the concerned citizens who are here today to try to do everything in their power to make Longview a better place. We ask that you guide this group tonight to make the best decisions possible and to always try to do your will. We thank you for this great city of Longview, Texas. We love living here. We love being a part of this amazing community. We're thankful for all the citizens, all the businesses, teachers, students, city workers, police officers, firemen, everyone that helped take care of this great city of Longview, Texas. We ask you to bless us all, two-legged and four-legged, and watch over us, keep us safe, help us to always do all that we can do in your name for your will. We love you and we praise you. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the saying of the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Next on our agenda is citizen comment. I do not have any speaker cards. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak at this time? Seeing none, I will move on to our presentation items. Our first presentation is a presentation of Adoptable Dog from Longview Animal Care and Adoption Center. Miss Bonnie Hubbard with Miss Sunny Day. If you will please join me at the front.
I have an escort. I'll let Brittany bring here.
Yep. Bonnie, you want to come up here and talk?
Okay. I can.
Miss Sunny Day is going to sit with me.
It's a puppy.
Give everybody else your bio.
So this is Miss Sunny Day. She is approximately a 3-year-old spayed pit bull mix. She is one of the longest residents at Longview Animal Care and Adoption Center of 40 days. Staff has a hard time understanding why she's there because she, as you can see, is one of the best good dogs. Her favorite hobbies are the zoomies. There's a Facebook video where you can see that. She also identifies as a lap dog. She wants all the cuddles she can get, and she is looking forward to her forever home and doing a meet and greet with them and her future playmates. If anyone is interested, between the hours of 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. Tuesday through Friday, she is available for a meet and greet and to introduce, and her adoption fee is waived to an approved application. So, Miss Sunny Day, we thank y'all.
Sunny's gonna use the restroom.
Sorry, Steve. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I know that is an effort to get an adoptable dog from the Animal Care and Adoption Center here, so I appreciate the effort. But please know that we have a lot of wonderful adoptable dogs there that are looking for a forever home and need you to open up your homes and welcome them with open arms. So thank you guys very much. We appreciate you. Next on our agenda is, oh, you moved down there. Presentation of the proposed 24-25 budget for the city of Longview. Mr. Roland McPhee, our city manager. This is our first look at the budget tonight, presentation for the very first time, and we are excited to hear from you. Thank you, Mr. McPhee.
Thank you. You'll please forgive me. I have less voice, and I'm not nearly as cute as the dog that graced us just a minute ago. So good evening. This is my third budget season, And while we don't normally spend a lot of time looking back, I think it's important that we take some time to celebrate and highlight the City Council's recent achievements, especially in light of the council turnover that we have had in the recent months. So the first thing I'd like to do is draw your attention to a slide. These are recent accomplishments, just a few of them, from the past 2 City Council approved budgets. We've been fortunate that due to our strong local economy, we've tackled significant investments, not only in our employees, but in our community, in spite of these large economic challenges. So I'd like to highlight, for instance, the first 3, which I think has generated some discussion, but one of the things that was very, very important is we addressed public safety pay and employee market pay in a 2-year time frame. So we were very fortunate to be able to do that. The last time that City Council accomplished the same amount of movement in pay, it took the city 5 fiscal years to accomplish the work that was done in the past 2 years. As is the case every year, moving forward with new budgets, I try and meet with the sitting council very early on in the process, and some of you I've had the pleasure of meeting with regarding this. And I receive, and we've started this process to get feedback from the city council so that you guys had some say in the direction and the budgeting priorities of us moving forward. These were a few of the significant council budget requests that were requested during those meetings. I will tell you, as in years past, I would list those, and it was a really great slide. I was able to check mark lots of these boxes. Unfortunately, the budget I've prepared for you that I'll explain in further detail in the coming comments, we've been unable to accomplish those significant budget requests, and that's largely due to those external constraints and the revenues and the increasing costs. So I'm going to go to the next slide, and for those of you that have heard from me on the previous 2 budgets, I'm sorry, you get to hear it again. I sound like a broken record to some extent. The challenges we face in our coming years are the same challenges you've heard me talking about recently. Inflation, although we've seen signs that that's beginning to ease, the supply chain pressures on pricing, as is indicated by when we've ordered new fire engines in the past and we've ordered new equipment, those delivery times still lag by a significant amount. And then another thing that you've heard me talk about is statutory limitations on municipal revenues, and our property tax revenues, which is our most stable form of revenues for cities, that's been capped at 3.5%. This financial and economic climate that businesses, and many of you are business owners and professionals in the community, those same prices and restrictions and increased costs for businesses have affected citizens as well, which has affected that disposable income that they have where they use to buy, purchase goods and services, which directly reflect the second largest revenue stream, which is sales tax. A lot of those things are not under financial control of the council. We can do things to make the right decisions and improve businesses within the community, but the actual economy is a determinant on how much of those sales tax we receive. To go a little deeper with the inflation and the challenges posed by this, I've put up an exhibit, and if we'll just walk through it, the U.S. inflation rate, and these are annualized, has been 4.7, 8%, 4.1, and 3.3. And so when you look back into 2022 and 2023 in particular, 2023 and 2024 are when we made those large adjustments with our increased revenues that you've heard me speak about in earlier work sessions and meetings. What we've begun to see is that our revenues are starting to lag behind inflationary pressures. And that's one of the reasons that this budget season is so tight and I guess painful and not really exciting for me to present to you. I want to take a moment at this time to talk about some of the priorities that I've had for the past 2 years with our existing staff, and I want to take a minute to recognize the efforts of not only the directors, but the managers and the employees that have figured out how to get budgeting requests right and to be more in line with actual expenditures and needs that they have on an annual basis. If you remember in past budget years, we've had some year-end savings that we've used to offset large, significant one-time purchases from our proposed budget. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on the lens you look at it, our city staff and employees and managers and leadership have budgeted properly, which leaves us less remaining revenue within our current year to offset some of those coming costs in the near term. So that's one constraint, but I really want to thank the job that the employees have done. Taking all those challenges into consideration, put it simply, we're looking at a difficult budget year. I wanted to point out that the original requests, we have a 2-week period that everybody puts their budgets together that they've been working on for about 5 months. They put those requests into the system, and that's what starts the budget conversation that happens internal to the organization. There was a $7 million difference between departmental requests or initial estimates of requests and what our available revenues were for. So that's about a $7 million or a 7.3% increase in the costs. So I will tell you the reason, I don't normally share this because this is a little bit of how we make the sausage, but I think one of the important things to point out is that the assistant city manager and the director of finance, Angela and Marianne, they've been a part of the budget process for between 15 and 22 years, depending on which one of them we're talking about. One of the things that they said, this is my 4th year being a part of the budget process, was they looked at that number and they said, this is the largest gap that they had seen in initial requests and available funding. So that's the main reason I put this on the screen, was to talk about the gap that we've already closed for a good portion. So here is the general fund budget and overview. Once again, I'm proposing a balanced budget of $95.3 million. You can also see that the general fund budget this coming year is actually a slight decrease year to year from the prior year. You can also see that the anticipated year-end fund balance is $25.3 million. I do want to note that the proposed budget of $95.4 million does not include several one-time purchases that are substantial, the largest of which is a $1.4 million fire engine. I believe that it is my duty to present a balanced budget to the City Council. And while due to my experience, I may have opinions on what things we might need to go ahead and do anyway, I believe that it's the most important job for me to propose a budget to council that is financially, fiscally responsible and also can be funded if our revenues remain flat for the coming years. Not to create a fiscal cliff for maintenance and operations and delivery of our services. But in the case of the fire engine, again, it is important that to remain on schedule, we need to figure out a way to purchase that. The next slide is one that many of you have seen before. We've talked in depth about our fund balance recent months. Here's a chart showing its projected status for the coming fiscal year. As previously mentioned and indicated in the graph, we're once again proposing a budget that does not require use of our fund balance. However, for example, if City Council believes we should choose options to buy the fire truck, these would be the funds from which we would do that one-time expenditure. The next slide is a general representation of general fund revenue. I'm going to spend a little bit more time visiting about this slide than I do in years past. It's long been the case. It's generally split into thirds, and that's using rough rounding. It's a third in sales tax, a third in property tax, and a third in some various revenues, franchise fees, transfers, and then ultimately permits, fees, and fines. This year, I want to draw particular attention to the roughly $10.5 million in revenue from services, fees, and fines. So the impact of services and fees and fines are also impacted by the existing economy, whether or not there's additional building happening, whether there's building being pulled back. But the specific thing, that $10 million or $10.5 million is 11% of our total revenue, but is truly the one that you as a council can control and impact how much revenue you receive from. So the things that we don't have control over, the majority of the city's fiscal budget is based on those, like property tax, which is constrained at 3.5%, the sales tax, which is constrained by the economy. But I would tell you the 10.5 is what city council can directly affect. You'll notice this poses a little bit of a challenge because it's the only source that we have, or that city council has full control over. So if our general fund expenses in a hypothetical situation increase 2%, and our sales tax and our property tax was going to remain stagnant, to make up that $2 million, you would have to raise those permits and fees and fines by 20%. So I want council to understand some of the things that dictate how we operate are outside of council controls. We can make good decisions to improve those returns, but ultimately we have very little levers on that. And the legislature's talking about removing some of those levers in the future. The other thing that I want to point out, this is something that I think cities don't say enough, is that when we talk about tax revenue for the city, and we talk about truly tax revenue, just tax revenue, we're talking about property tax and sales tax. And so if you combine property tax and sales tax by your residents and your constituents and our visitors of our great city, you're looking at about $87 million is what comes in to fund those services. I want to remind everyone that the state who is putting controls on the things that we're doing, we send them in sales tax $192 million. More than 2 times the amount goes to the state. So understand, we are drivers of the state economy, but in the same sense, when the discussion about property tax revenue and sales tax revenue, understand even if you put those two together, we're spending a lot more to the state. And I will tell you that we affect everyone's daily lives more than the state does. The property tax rates, this is the matchstick slide, is basically what we've referred to that as, is we're proposing based on preliminary valuations that we received from the appraisal districts, the same tax rate of 56.19. Interesting enough, the amount of the property tax revenue allocated to debt has actually decreased from the previous year. So this decrease and increase in the valuations has allowed us to shift that money more towards our maintenance and operations, which is the exact same thing that I'm discussing here tonight. So there are a couple other things that we normally figure that are the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate. Those calculations are performed by the Gregg County and Harrison County, actually the Gregg County tax assessor and collector. We have filled out the information as provided by our initial valuations. However, we should have the last valuations or the final valuations by the end of the month, and then so we'll be able to plug those in. But I'm confident that the 5619 we still will be able to assess based on those calculations. You've heard me talk about sales tax a little bit. I think this slide is just something for awareness. Here's a chart of our sales tax revenue month by month for the last 3 years. As you can see, FY 22-23, year before last, we had an impactful increase. But please notice that our current fiscal year, 23-24, is lagging. I want to take just a special moment to mention that the reason You have not heard me talk about this with council and worry you with the lagging sales tax is specifically because Angela Cohen in the management of the reinvestments and reinvestment of city funds has managed to make up the large majority of that sales tax lag through reinvestments. Interest rates have remained higher a little bit. That's a bad thing in depending on perspective again. It's also helped us to not freeze positions, to not eliminate positions, or to put a pause on certain. We're still doing what we said we were going to do in the budget because of that investment return. Our current projections for the coming fiscal year show a slight increase from the FY 23-24 year-end estimate, but it's a market decrease from our budgeted projections of the prior year. Those funds will directly go to support our general fund expenses, which are shown on the screen. Similar to the revenues, our expenditures are roughly split into thirds. 2/3 of those funds are basically allocated towards public safety, and the remainder towards our other general fund expenditures. So I've told you a lot about what the budget didn't include. I want to take a few moments to highlight a few things that we are. So as previously stated, we've got challenges, but we've been able to do some good things. I will tell you the one-time purchases for the city this year in the proposed budget is $350,000, and last year our one-time purchases were $1.05 million. So there's been a marked decrease in the reduction of one-time expenditures that we were able to entertain. About $2 million of those one-time expenditures, the largest one being the fire engine, as I've mentioned, those are not included in this budget. Additionally, there's been about a 7%, roughly $230,000 decrease in the street maintenance, which is a 7% in our contractual street pavement maintenance. One of the great things for employees, in spite of the rising costs, due to the management and fiscal responsibility of our employee health plan, there are no premium increases to the city and no premium increases to those employees on the plan. We're not proposing a rate increase for sanitation. We have got that where it needs to be. I will tell you that, as I alluded to in my budget presentation last year, our water and sewer rates, we avoided that through the effective use of the ARPA funds to minimize that impact to our ratepayers and to maintain investment in the city's largest capital asset, the utility system. Hhowever, this year, we need a fund increase or a rate increase. It's worth noting that our our rates have remained constant since the last rate increase, which was in the fiscal year 2020, so October of 2019. So we've done a great job. I want to applaud Dwayne and the Public Works utility personnel that have managed that. They have done that through organizational improvements, reorganizations of certain divisions, and have maintained the ability to maintain the system, improve the system, while still maintaining the same rate base. As I've stated before, this is not sustainable any longer. We're still working within our plan to be debt-free within the utility system within the next 5 years, but we've got to maintain capital reinvestment in the infrastructure. You can see the new proposed rates in the chart. There's a 21-cent base rate increase in the water minimum and a 13-cent rate increase in the per 1,000 gallons. Many of us do the same thing. We buy bottled water. We buy bottled water for $5 for a few gallons. We're talking about a 23-cent increase on 1,000 gallons. So the value's there. It's a precious commodity. For wastewater, which I just want to challenge everybody to think about, that's water reclamation. That's making sure that we return the water as good stewards. Since we used it, we need to return it to the environment as good stewards. That base rate is going up 25 cents, and the gallonage usage 20 cents. A lot of these things, when you look at it in this manner, it's a little hard to tell what the overall impact is. That's why we take a typical water bill, which uses 5,000 gallons per month, what a typical water bill rate increase would be. And with all of the increases in the base charge, as well as based on the 5,000 usage, you're looking at about $1.45, which is a 3.4% increase. When you use the measurements, which have been done by Dwayne and his staff, in saying, is that still an affordable base for the income? It still checks out as a very affordable rate. It's always helpful for council to understand and compare our rates with comparable cities. And before anybody thinks it or says it, we didn't pick which cities to put up here. We use the ones that are like size and used to compare ourselves to, whether it be in salary or population. The cities shown on the slide, those are the ones we look at. But as shown, even with the proposed rate increase on the 5,000 gallon usage, we still provide the most affordable water and sewer rates, which is effective for not only the ratepayers, but obviously all of our citizens. So this is a summary slide of the final total budget presented. You can see that there's a net decrease in the budget of $1.9 million. It reflects the total expenses of $215 million. Finally, here's the calendar on the last slide, which is August 8th, where the budgets and fees will be discussed again. There's a proposed preliminary vote on the tax rate, with hopefully August 22nd being the public hearing again, the adoption of the tax rate, adopting the fees, and a separate vote to ratify that. On September 12th, in conjunction as our normal practice, with LEADCO will bring and present their budget before council, and we will also bring the CIP presentation for city council review and approval. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McPhee. And just as a friendly reminder, we will operate under our new rules of engagement, so please indicate with a raise of your hand if you'd like to ask Mr. McPhee some questions or make a comment, and we'll go in a respectful Mr. Conley.
Thank you for the presentation, Mr. McPhee. Great job. Want to say, particularly on the water issue, I'm commending the city of Longview for the water rate being considerably lower than most cities our size, and not having a raise there. And I think we got the best tasting water that I've experienced. I mean, I think that's important.
You're correct.
So one question I had was the debt rate at 15 cents, the proposed for this year. When will be our next? When will be an opportunity next that we'll have to lower that debt rate, the 15 cent? In other words, when will we have? What's the next estimation when we'll have something that's paid off on some of our bonds that can be reduced?
I can get the proposed schedules. Understand that the amount of that is dedicated towards the property tax rate is largely dependent on property values. So it depends on what property values go. I can give you what our payments are over the next 10, 15 years in debt, but to tell that, I would have to forecast what those property values are. We can do some mock calculations to show that, but I think that's the trend. Our debt is falling off as that. If the valuations go, that rate will pull back.
Okay, and so just Mr. ask, when was our most recent bond that we're paying, that would be?
It was the pension obligation bond in FY 2022, yes.
Okay.
I forgot I brought that at my first meeting. Brilliant.
So you don't have an idea when the next bond would be complete? I guess that's my question.
No, sir, I do not, but I can get that information for you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are you good?
I'll check this off. Yeah, I'm officially finished with my
Yeah, we
comments.
can come back to you, but I'm supposed to ask. Okay. Anyone else?
Yes.
Ms. Moore?
I was looking on here, I see where we have decreased some in the street budget. What streets are currently in progress, and then which ones that we stopped?
So thank you for the question. I'm going to talk a little bit about the pavement. I'll take this one, Brian. So the pavement management policy, the city actually adopted a policy for which streets need to be repaired, and that policy is based on a rating index. We drive a third of our streets every year, and we get the results usually about March, February, somewhere around that. And then that's when we populate the list of the streets for the proposed maintenance, because we want to do it with the most up-to-date data we have. So I can't tell you the specific streets. I can tell you that the way the rating system is done to look at the streets that we can do things to and prolong the life of. And so that's really the approach to the pavement management. And so I will tell you the needs were, when we presented the policy to council, the needs, you could spend as much as you want to on streets. You truly can. But what you want to do is make sure that the overall network maintains at a certain level. So I would say, whereas if we had 100 street sections that we would do with the $3 million in budgeted funds that were requested, when you reduce it by 230, you're just going to do 92% of the streets that need it according to the policy. But those locations are independent of geographical area. They are 100% based on the test results. So we typically populate those lists prior to bidding out in the summer. So we had the list for what we were paving this year in about March of this year.
And so in that, were any of those complete, is what I'm saying? Is this going to carry on? Did we get them completed? Were they in budget? Or did you have to move them over to this year's budget? Because I'm kind of confused on what was cut off and where we're stopping at.
It's just the available funding for proposed paving. So all of the paving and the proposed paving operations that we have budgeted for this year, we will spend all those funds. And next year, the model projects we need X dollars a month or X dollars a year, so you can run that scenario. So it would be doing about 92% of the streets that were identified.
And in this budget, are there any new projects in the budget that we're talking about now?
No, ma'am, it is not an expansion of projects. I'm 100% focused on maintaining service levels.
And so did you had to cut off any projects?
We were unable to fund a bunch of projects. I will tell you that the list of one-time expenditures, I can get that list for you of what was requested, but all of those $2 million worth of one-time expenditures were removed.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that conclude your comments
Yes.
for now?
For now, I have to say for
Yeah,
now.
yes. Anyone else? Mr. Pirtle?
Roland, the thing that hits me the most is the cost of living adjustments. You're coming in here with that inflation rate's 3.3%. And my concern is, I know we raised up Public Works last year, $15 an hour. The fire and police, I'm kind of concerned about, are we going to be able to hold our own with the other towns around here? Or are we going to get behind again?
Those are all valid concerns, yes, sir.
I think if we don't try to at least hold our own with towns like Tyler or Marshall or some of the local towns that we would tend to lose our worker bees from, Public Works, Public Safety, all of them like that. If nothing else, at least some sort of cost of living raise or something, because we get on Social Security. I get Social Security. We get that every year. I mean, federal government gets that. And I know we're limited on budgets and everything, but the old boy down there trying to buy groceries or pay for his gas bill or something like that, a little bit every month helps. And it doesn't have to be a full-blown 3 or 4%, but, can we go back and look at that? Maybe we can come in and use a stopgap point of, say, $100,000. If you make over $100,000, you don't qualify. If you make under, maybe you can look at getting some kind of a little stipend or a raise or something, because I think that would take care of most of the people that we need to deal with. And you'd said earlier that to give everybody a raise at one time would be like $1.5 million.
So
I'm not sure what that rate is.
let me respond to you. First off, I will tell each and every one of you and those employees and the people in the audience, this was the most disturbing thing I had to do We have worked extremely hard to remain pay relevant. It pains me to not propose a pay increase. I want to make sure that I don't create a fiscal cliff or a problem for council in the future. I understand that was the motivation. This was the hardest thing I've had to do. The second thing in response to that I would say is that we can look at different options. I would tell you this, when you start, one of the things that's charged of me in the charter is to maintain a pay plan. And so when you start putting in all of those pay plans, we have 11 different business units and very different things. Everybody does different things, much to your point, Mr. Pirtle. We've got the people that are doing the hard work of making sure our water mains are repaired. We've got the police officers that are doing the work, making sure our town's safe. We have the fire safety professionals that are responding to fires, but those are all vastly different income levels. So when you start picking which portion of where the money goes, the thing I would caution you when you do that in that way is that you do affect the integrity of the pay plan and the relational pay plan for the responsibility of those jobs. You start to what they call compression, but it does start to mess with that. I will tell you that for every 1% across the board raise that you give employees, roughly, we're talking general fund, right? That's what sales tax and property tax driven. You're talking about $600,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's it. $600,000 is roughly 1%. So, if you did 5%, that's $3 million. If you did 2%, that's $1.2 million. So just in the realm of understanding, that's basically those costs, which are certainly things that I would entertain. As I've stated before, I just believe it's my responsibility to bring a balance to council.
Well, but that cost is based on total employee of the city. It's not,
Yes, sir.
not at a stopgap point. Somebody making over $200,000 a year, this is not going to affect them like it was somebody making $15 an hour. Those are the guys that I'm worried about.
Sure.
We're trying to compete daily or weekly or monthly for police officers and firemen. And, these young guys are going to get out of the academy and they're going to hook it to Dallas if we don't offer them something better or something that's equal as what they can get up there with the way our cost of living is here. Our housing and everything, water is a prime example. All that stuff is a whole lot cheaper to live here, and we can afford to pay less than they pay in Plano or Dallas or whatever. But we have to stay competitive in my books with what's around here, and Tyler's our closest nemesis, I think. I guess we have to compete with them a lot. If we could look at it, a range to where we could get say $100,000 or $90,000 or something like that, that would keep those people in line and help them a little bit. And I'm not trying to belittle the management by no means, but a guy making $15 an hour, that's kind of tough for him to pay his bills every month, and then everything else around him's going up consistently. His rent, his gas, his groceries.
Absolutely. The 90,000, just you're talking about, the 90,000 cap touches a lot of public safety as well.
And
So
the thing about it is it doesn't have to be 3% or 4%.
Sure.
If it's 2%, that's even better. I know we've got it in our reserve funds. I hate to use reserve funds for that, but at the same time, we start losing public safety people, and we start losing public works people, or anybody that works for the city that's below that threshold. That hurts us. We can't replace them that easy.
Every employee is important.
So
Yes, sir.
can we look at that some shape, form, or fashion? I
Absolutely.
think it would be more beneficial to the majority of the city, maybe not all of you,
Sure.
but the majority of the city, I think it would be.
Sure.
So I'd appreciate that before we come back again. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm through.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Pirtle. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Conley?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo, I know the next meeting's Thursday, August 8th, and we'll have a discussion more about that. And I want to agree with what Mr. Pirtle discussed. I mean, especially our hourly employees, and I just appreciate it. And I know you have placed a lot of you and your team has placed a lot of emphasis on making sure we take care of our people and just being as creative as possible. With that increase in the slight increase that we're going to have in our water and sewer, what's the projection of how much that could help our revenue for this year?
Dwayne, do you have an idea?
I think it's about $2 million.
He said about $2 million is what that 3.43 brings in, and that's going directly into the capital reinvestment. That's what we're looking to sustain.
Now, just to close out, we all know inflation. We're looking at U.S. inflation at 19% in the last 4 years. So being able to be creative, I just appreciate that, and I think all of us trust you guys to do that. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I would echo, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Newstead.
So on the deferred street maintenance, is that going to create a problem for us in the future by like spend a penny today, save a nickel tomorrow? Is that going to create something we'll have to spend more money on later?
So I don't think it is significant enough to move the model. The models are they're a little different. There's a little bit of an art to it. It's not an exact science. We have had worse years that have not cavitated the system. I don't think there's a sustainable impact. Sure, there's less maintenance. Do I think it's going to cripple us in the future? No, sir. Would it be better not to? Yes, sir. I will tell you this, that the other thing I want to remind council is that these are based on our initial revenues. And so one of the things that I would hope is if we get some values that come in a little bit different, or if the valuations for our property taxes come in a little bit higher, then maybe we adjust that and try and minimize that impact of the street funding. But there are a number of different ways you can do that.
Okay, and then a couple more questions. You mentioned the bonds on the utilities going to be paid off in 5 years. When that's paid off, what does that allow? Does it allow us to keep the water rates down? What does that allow us to do?
It allows for even the maintenance thing. So there's a difference between systematic replacement and maintenance. And I'm sure Mr. Pirtle, with his building experience, understands systematic maintenance prolongs life and gets that. But when you start doing overhaul of things, your costs increase significantly. That would allow some systematic replacement for the utility. So repair of some of the large treatment units on a more proactive basis rather than us reacting when one of them fails due to not being able to replace it. So I truly think that helps us with our rate stability, but the flip side is it's the capital reinvestment and the utility system. That's the last thing that we have as a municipality to be attractive. You hear lots of other communities talking about we don't have the water, we don't have the fire protection, and you see businesses in different industries and even some of the industries that LEEDCO has targeted, they are looking for that. So I think we're set up in the long run for sustainability with the utility, and we'll continue to have very, very cost-effective rates. So I think it'll do a number of things.
Okay, thank you. And then also can you kind of talk about how the pay scale is developed, how that's done through looking at other cities and comparing where we are, and then where are we sitting as far as on the pay scale?
Well, I'm going to get somebody that's the expert in that, and I'm going to let somebody else talk for a second and save my voice for the last questions.
All right.
Mary Ann?
Hi.
Hello.
So we have 16 cities that council approved years ago as our survey cities that we look at, and those are across the state, all within the state. And so we have a market pay plan that is, every position has a range, and each range is 2.5%. So every employee from the top to the bottom is within those ranges. You have to take into account supervision, so you have to have a certain number of ranges in between the bottom level to the supervisor to manager to director, and on up. But every position within the city, general government-wise, is within that market pay plan. Certified police and fire have their own plans that are step pay plans, and those we look at Tyler, and that has been a decision with council as well through the years.
Okay, and I appreciate you giving that. I think it'd be helpful for us to see where we're at with those survey cities.
Sure,
to
we
see
can
if
get
if the lack of a COLA increase may make it where we fall behind. and to see that.
That data would be based on last year's numbers, because we don't know what the cities are going to project for this year, but absolutely, we can get that for you
Yeah, but we
guys.
could see where we're ranking
Right.
as far as where in the, okay,
Absolutely.
awesome, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm finished, Mayor.
Done, thank you. Ms. Gamboa?
I just have a couple of questions. Can you remind me when that road pavement study was done, and that the company that surveys our streets, a third of every street, what is their reporting process to us? How do we know that they're surveying those streets? I'm not trying to rank on anybody, but I really feel like they have not been doing that adequate of a job keeping up with our street maintenance. And I just wanted to ask as well if LEEDCO funds can be used for raises. Like, could we ask LEEDCO for,
I don't think LEEDCO funds can be used for raises. There's a certain window of things that they can use from. Usually those are quality of life things, like they've helped us with fire stations, they've helped us with signals for safety, the public safety and quality of life improvements. Robert, do you have anything to add?
So I don't want to step on LEEDCO's council's toes, but no, the statute limits the use of our 4A funds basically to certain types of jobs. And then also we had an election many years ago where those funds can be used for public safety, like capital purchases and stuff for public safety and for parks, but not for pay for city staff.
okay, just to follow up on that, so could we hypothetically ask them for 1.4 million for that fire engine?
You absolutely can ask them for whatever you'd like to.
Thank you. That is all my questions.
Thank
Do
you.
you want me to respond to the street maintenance just
Oh,
for a-
yes, sorry.
Sorry, I just, to be clear, I want to make sure I'm answering. So Stantec is the pavement company. So understand that they rate based on, and it's a reporting mechanism. We maintain those in our geographic information system. We make sure that the new data is put into that system. There are a number of roads that are beyond pavement maintenance, right? So those are probably some of the roads you're talking about. So that's why those roads are that way, because we don't have a sustainable reconstruction of roadways. The last time we did some major reconstruction of roadways was the 2011 bond election. They issued $52.6 million. $5 million worth of those were taking old dirt streets throughout many districts and converting those to asphalt-based. And the only ones they did were the ones that were beyond repair. The initial list was much higher than that. I think they said how much to fix everything. It was 168 million or some number that was, they say, well, we're not talking about that. We need to address certain ones. So ones that are beyond maintenance, we focus our internal efforts on rebuilding those depending upon the use and the number of people, because there are limited resources we have available for those reconstruction efforts. So when they do drive the street, they drive a third, we verify it, we import the data, we review the data through quality control. It measures things. I'm going to get real boring and technical. It measures how smooth the street is. It measures whether there's undulations in the pavement. It measures where there are cracking, and then it forms a composite index. For our arterials and collectors, it actually does structural, non-destructive testing to make sure that the base underneath it isn't failing. So those are the ways in which it does that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
sorry, just to clarify on the fire engine, is that a medic? Is that what we're talking about, or just regular fire engine?
No, ma'am, it's a regular one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Wade?
Yes, mine was just really small, and it was probably just a typo as well, but I don't know if we're considering any of this to be documented or a resolution, but on the budget calendar, on our documents, it has Thursday, September 8th, and I think September 8th is.
My apologies, that was caught late today as we were finalizing the presentation, and we did not get your page replaced, so we can take care of that.
Well, it didn't get past me, Mr. McPhee.
Nothing gets
All right.
past you,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Wade.
Okay, all right.
And thanks for calling me out. Appreciate it.
Are there other comments, questions for Mr.? Yes, Mr. Purtle?
I'm still stuck on the cost of living adjustments. Does Ledco, we have to approve their budget. Can we request them pay for that fire engine?
Can I respond?
Ma'am?
Can I respond? Or
Yes, ma'am.
Can I give you, what I think I hear from council, Mr. McPhee, is that we'd like to see at the next budget meeting some recommendations or options on how we might include a cost of living increase. I would say that is going to be my comment. I've been convinced over the years that if we don't do that, we fall behind, like Mr. Purtle said. And I know that it is hard, but if you could look at options to present to council, including if there are funding options, where, of course, we want to consider other available funds. I don't know the answer to that, but I think we can get it.
Well, they give so much money to a lot of different things, which is all good and everything, but if we have special requests, maybe we could state that when he's presenting his budget next time.
I agree.
And see if he's acceptable to doing that, because he has to go through us to get his budget approved, so, that's just one area. Michelle mentioned it. That's just a good place that I think that we could get our funds back to use what we need to use them for, and then we can use those funds to what we still need to use them for public safety. So I may be sticking my foot out there too far, but I think that would be we can ask at least.
Absolutely. We would love some creative options.
May I add one thing, just for awareness? I think if you're having that conversation, just to in full disclosure, for the past 3 years for certain, and I think even before that, they actually send us $300,000 to match our transit, and that's actually still in the proposed budget this year. So not telling you it's not a good idea, I just want to acknowledge they've been a partner of our operating budget to the tune of $300K for the last 3 years for sure.
Perfect. Yes, Ms. Moore?
We just want to make sure that we, like they're saying, explore every option, even if we're thinking about a one-time bonus or something, just make sure that we have a lot of options and not just say no, even if we go to a lower percentage rate. But we do need more options before we just say no, that we're not going to do a raise increase.
Respectfully, ma'am, I am not going to stand in the way of council giving a raise to the employees.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, yes.
I just think, just want to add, I love the creativity that I brought up, and Ms. Gamboa, it's just one option, but being creative, and if you look at, I think it was 1% was 600,000, so if we had the 1.5, just to, you're looking at almost a 2.5% increase, if that could help. And tough times, we all pull together and be creative and figure out ways to make it work to help our people, especially the ones that need it the most.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, so I think that's some direction for council for next time. And
Thank
if
you.
council thinks of other suggestions in between, please feel free to reach out to Mr. McPhee and give him those suggestions. Want to make that a team effort, and excellent conversation. Thank you, guys. I will move on then. Thank you, Mr. McPhee. Appreciate you. Move on then to the consent agenda. Are there any items that council would like to pull off for discussion, or can I have a motion?
Move to approve.
I have a
Second.
motion from John and a second, Mr. Newstead, and a second from Ms. Gamboa. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Looks like that is the end of the meeting. Items of community interest, we'll start with Mr. Conley.
Yes, I apologize to Animal Shelter for last meeting, so I overlooked this, but I'm happy to say that Saturday, July 20th, this Saturday, beautiful McWhorter Park has a 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Free microchip for cute little puppies like that one, and so really appreciate the Longview Animal Care and Adoption Center and their partnership with Longview Paws for making that happen. So please, I encourage anyone to spread the word and free microchipping. And my understanding is they do this periodically through all different areas and all districts. And I'm really impressed by the people at the Longview Animal Shelter, and they're doing great things to help our community and our pet population. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Ms. Moore?
Yes, July is National Park and Recreation Month, and our Park and Recreation Department has launched an Adopt a Park to create a legacy and campaign to have every city park adopted by July 2025. The department has teamed up with our Media Development Division to produce a video promoting the campaign and the Adopt a Park program, and we're excited to premiere the video right now.
Every hour, a city of Longview park or trail goes unadopted. Alone and exposed to the elements, these parks and trails spend their days waiting for someone to help. They suffer in silence, hoping one day to catch the eye of a loving adopter. Will you be the answer for an innocent, unadopted park? For just $0 a month, that's only 0 cents a day. Your pledge to adopt a park, create a legacy, will save these green spaces from a life of solitude. But don't just take our word for it. Hear what some of our current park adopters have to say.
Ever since I adopted my first park back in 2017, I must say, things have been great. Me and my park, we have bonded during this time. I find serenity and peace, God's nature. We take walks together. We spend a lot of time together, but most of all, my parks, they do help me clean.
We had never adopted a park before, so you can understand we were a little bit nervous. Our park was a little bit slow to open up, but after a little bit of TLC, it has really come out of its shell. And it's been smooth sailing ever since.
Hi, I'm John Albertson, the City of Longview Parks and Recreation Director. By pledging to adopt a park, create a legacy, you'll help preserve all of our city's green spaces and parks. To help kick off our campaign, we've partnered with a fellow city department that knows a lot about adoptions.
That's right, John. At Longview Animal Care and Adoption Center, we know a thing or two about adoption. That's why we have taken the pledge and have adopted Stragent Dog Park for dogs like Fern here. By adopting Stragent, we are committed to ensuring that it stays safe with regular cleanups and improvements for all of our furry friends in Longview.
Check the website or call us today to adopt the park of your dreams.
And while you're at it, make sure to come down to Longview Parks and Recreation and adopt a park today.
Join us today. Adopt a park, create a legacy.
That's super fun.
That's it. I might have to adopt a park, though.
And a dog. And a dog.
Yep.
Mr. Wade.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Newstead?
Nothing to that, Mayor.
Ms. Gamboa?
In order for me to adopt another dog, we may have to raise our limit to 7 instead of 6. Okay, fine. I did not give them a graphic, but we just had our comprehensive plan meeting yesterday. And so I know Megan's going to be a great person and drop the link in today's council meeting on Facebook so that you can give us your opinion. It's only open for 2 weeks, people. That's 14 days starting today. I'll make sure to give this to our media friends out there as well so they can help us push it. If you want your voice to be heard and direction to be given for the next decade of our beautiful city, please, please, please fill out our comprehensive plan update. This is your last chance to tell us about neighborhood livability as well as general land use and what you think our city's direction should go. So thank you. And I pledge to adopt Neil McCoy / Spring Hill Park. So.
Mr. Prittle?
Okay, mine's going to be a little personal. Tomorrow will be my 49th wedding anniversary to the same woman that put up with me for that long. So if y'all think y'all have a tough time with me, she's got a really tough time with me. So I want to wish her a happy anniversary tomorrow.
Absolutely.
That's his first ever items of communion.
Look at that. I've skipped you. I'm sorry, Mr. McPhee.
So, happy anniversary, Mr. and Mrs. Purtle. I did want to take just a moment. I'm remiss. I did not thank the budget team. The budget team, it is an excruciating task. Marianne Hagenbucher, Angela Cohen, who is not here because of loss in the family, and I hope everyone keeps her and her family in your prayers. And Angela Walker, who always managed to keep us smiling during the process in spite of our demeanors. And then once again, I absolutely thank you to the directors and the employees. You're the true heroes out there. You're the one that make things happen. And without you guys, I'm not anything. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McPhee. I have two announcements. One, a reminder that our July 25th meeting is canceled. Our next time for council to convene will be our next budget meeting, which will be August 8th, a Thursday, right, Mr. Wade?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And I wanted to give a very sincere thank you to each council member. All of our council members attended this past weekend retreat, which was an opportunity for us to spend some time together outside of this arena, talk about our passion for Longview, and it is very evident that everyone is here for the right reason, serving our community. I'm proud to serve with each of you, and I look forward to what we can accomplish in the future. I think we did a great job tonight with our new rules of engagement, so you'll see us operating using those, and please feel free to hold me accountable to those as well. I will do my best. Sometimes we're spirited, but it is all in the hopes of doing the best that we can for Longview and bringing together each of our own efforts to do that as a team. So grateful to each of you for all the time that you've invested thus far, and proud to be here with you. So with that, we will be adjourned until August. Thank you guys so much.